Hi everybody, I'm Pete Wright with LexJet, and I'm here today with John Panazzo with ColorByte Software. And we're here to talk to you today about ColorByte Software's image print red and the Graphtec cutters within educational applications. John and I have worked a lot together on this. We've done some really great focus groups working with different levels of educators, whether it's teachers, principals, different administrators, and we've learned some really cool things. And John's software paired with the Graphtec has become just a powerful tool within that market. So today we're going to hit on three big topics, and the first one we're going to talk about is administration. So John, talk to me a little bit about how, from an administrative perspective, your software with the Graphtec cutter is just so helpful.
I think when schools look at a reason to invest in a system like this, one of the first things that comes to mind is all of the administrative functions that they need for signage and messaging around the campus. And so being able to do that and do that in-house is a big selling point. Putting a cutter alongside of that just takes down the amount of labor involved in producing all of that signage on campus. So that's a big selling point, and it's a no-brainer for them because it's an expense that they're used to going outside to achieve. So when they look at dollars to dollars, how this system could pay for itself, that's an easy starting point because they have that that knowledge already in-house of what they're spending.
So one of the things that I remember being really important to a lot of the teachers that we talked to at the focus group was that they were using so many different pieces of software and so many different tools to achieve what they needed to, that with Graphtec and with the ColorByte software, they could achieve with just that, not bounce around.
Yeah, it's a very budget-friendly solution, can be configured many ways. And when you bring it into the educational side of things with teachers and being able to use it for teaching age in classroom, then they can start producing their own materials at a much cheaper price. And so it has a lot of appeal in the classroom as well as administrative functions.
Right. When we talk about budget, anytime you can help a teacher or a school with how to pay for something, that's important. And one of the areas that I think we've seen a lot of really helpful stuff in is fundraising. And it's been really brilliant watching kind of your mind play with the different things that you can do to use these tools to create money for schools. So talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you've seen done, some of the things that have worked really well from a fundraising standpoint.
Yeah, I think when we looked at this system in education, one of the first things that came to mind was fundraising. Because when you go outside to companies who focus on fundraising for the educational community, they take a large portion of those profits, and the school gets back a small percentage of it. So now being able to do things like buttons and stickers and fatheads, signage for events, and things that they can sell into the student population and also into the homes helps pay for the system. And that's just another sort of added benefit to cover the supplies that are used for all the things we talked about, whether it's administrative or in classroom. Now you have a way to generate revenue to profit in the school system itself and return that to supplies for the printer.
One of the things that I saw schools starting to do, and the first time I saw it, I was like, this is brilliant. They were doing a sticker like, my kid goes to this school or whatever, and they were literally printing with very little effort. They were taking a logo that pre-existed, dropping it in your software in the cut it out portion would automatically find the edge and snap to it. So it would give them that perfect contour cut, dropping in the adhesive material that they were printing on, and print cut stickers. The whole cost on them were about 18 cents each. They were selling them for $5 each. Sell 1,000 stickers through the PTO, through the school pickup line, things like that. They raised $5,000, quick and easy, and it's all their money. Their only expense was the expense of the actual ink and the media, which was, like I said, about 18 cents. So doing things like that, it's really brilliant being able to see the different ways. We're even seeing sports programs. Like there's another school that they designed packaging, which is another thing I want to talk about. They designed a golf ball sleeve for their golf team. In the golf team, the players went out and said, hey, we're going to have golf ball sleeves that we're going to have for all of our games, and we want to sell you advertisement on our golf ball sleeves. So even the golf ball team or the golf team found ways to do fundraising to pay for their uniforms and their travel and stuff like that. So the fundraising is just mind blowing. And anything that you and I might think of, as soon as you put it in the hands of the schools, which is a creative environment, they're just going to say, well, what else can we do with this? So it's really kind of cool.
And then you put that into the hands of the teachers who are teaching Photoshop and Illustrator or Corel and those applications, and you give them those events to design for, right? And then they use it in the teaching of it. You get a product that's produced. You could even have competitions, which we saw in some schools, and for package designs and things like that. And so it just permeates itself throughout the entire education process.
And that brings up in class, because that's another great place. Obviously, you mentioned schools that are actually using it as part of their curriculum from a marketing standpoint, getting to learn what goes into creating packaging, getting to learn about how to do design work of packaging, and being able to use your solution to physically create the packaging. And there's some templates that are built into your software, some basic ones that they can go in and drop templates in and do design stuff on that are already there, which is really great. But the fact that you've given them a tool that students at a school age student can actually go in and design packaging and create stuff that fold up and make really neat boxes. It's the one thing, anytime I've talked to businesses that were considering the solution, they're like, it's just creating packaging is so complicated. I talked to them about this school of 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. I'm like, if these kids can design this packaging and show them packaging, you can certainly do your packaging yourself. So it's been such a powerful tool. And I remember working with the one school that was doing it. They said that the students made comments that working with this tool is easy, and it made it feel like the things that they saw in stores was approachable, and they thought of it in a completely different way. Now when they walk through, they weren't just looking for the box of toothpaste that they like to brush their teeth with. They pick it up and they look at the box and see, how is it designed? How was it made? Why did they put certain things on certain sides in the writing of the design? And using Image Print Red from ColorByte really opened them up to being able to do that kind of thing, and easily. It wasn't something where they had to go out and hire a marketing firm to do things. They could actually study now in class at high school to become part of that marketing firm. But from another standpoint, from the educational standpoint, what are some of the things you're seeing from like a bulletin board standpoint, things like that? I know there's a lot of things that schools and teachers were used to purchasing that were somewhat limited. Talk to me about some of the limitations where you've taken the handcuffs off of the schools.
Well, I think when you look at printing in general, and you print something, you trim it by hand or with a roto trimmer, you're looking at something that's a rectangular shape. And when you add a companion item like a cutter to a printer, now you're not restricted by rectangles only. So now you can do all of your messaging, all your letters you need to cut out, right? Any type of signage that would appear on the bulletin board or around a school on a window, because now we're looking at not just printing on paper, but look at the whole wide array of adhesives we have. We have window graphic adhesives. We have floor graphic adhesives, right? We have peel and stick, which won't damage a wall. So if we have temporary signage that we need to do in a school, we can print that on peel and stick. We can put that on the wall, remove it when it's done, and leave no trace behind.
And that was big during COVID. I know that was a big, and I know a lot of the schools that did have your solution during COVID, it saved them a ton of money, because the idea of going and buying signage during COVID, it was a buyer's market at that time, or a seller's market at that time, because there wasn't a lot in terms of options, but there were a lot of things that you were required to have when coming back to school.
Right, you couldn't look down at a floor and not see, feet symbols, or a circle that says stand here, and then another one spaced 6 feet apart. And well, somebody had to print and cut all of that. And so to have a solution that would just already be in-house that could do that, just download the graphics, print them, cut them, and place them on the floor. It's just as easy as that.
So not only did it really save a lot of schools that already had the solution, and it also became a tool where schools were, during COVID, coming back, said, we're going to buy this, because not only is it going to get us through the startup, but it's also going to be something that we can use for all these other things. Now, I know there's one solution out there that does the cutting, and it does some die cutting, but it only does it on bulletin board paper.
Right.
So talk to me about kind of some of the applications you're seeing where teachers are taking that and amping it up a notch to where now they can do the printing pair it with a cutter that gives them those shapes and everything?
Yeah, so if we look at like K through 8, there's been dedicated systems that cut out shapes for teachers that they would be in classroom. They were very limited on what they could do. They were small. They could only cut out shapes up to maybe 12 inches, and that was about it. You couldn't print something on it and cut that shape. But they were very popular, and they did really well in the school system. But a system like this gets to go further than that. So it breaks the mold of what they were used to or what they were limited to. So instead of only being able to cut a shape that's 12 inches now, we can cut a shape that's, depending on the size of the cutter, anywhere from 54 inches wide by whatever length, to a smaller one, which would be 24 inches wide by whatever length. And those are big cutouts. So now it changes the dynamics of what you're doing.
So let's talk about Graphtec cutters. You guys have really great history working with them. They pair so well with your software. You drive them really well. And they've been very easy for you to work with in terms of, hey, whatever you need to be able to drive our machines, we'll help you out. We'll send you whatever you need. So they've been a great partner for you. Talk to me about the ease of use of Graphtec cutters, because I think that's, anytime anybody gets into a device that's larger than a desktop printer, whether it's a printer or cutter or anything like that, there's always that intimidation of a big machine. Is it going to be harder to use? Is it going to be real complicated? Is it going to be something that I'm going to struggle with? And that's not been the case that I've seen, but I'd like to kind of hear a little bit about what your thoughts are on the Graphtec cutters.
Graphtec cutters are great. They're cutters that have been around for a long time. They're used in the vinyl cutting industry. And what we did was write software to adapt that hardware to large format printing, right? To be able to, what we call perforation cut through paper, right? And so there was a lot of science and a lot of engineering that went into being able to do that. And that's the part that we brought to the table. And that allows image print to combine both print and cut under one interface. And by doing that, the ease of use to do it is because it's natural. The software is actually placing all the cut vectors on everything you put in the layout engine for you. There's no extra step involved, right? We don't have to go into another application and load a plugin and design a template and get it right and then figure out how to cut that out. The software is doing all of those applications for you, which makes it so that really anybody can run it.
So what about the durability and those types of aspects with the Graphtec cutter? Is it something they're going to have to worry about breaking down or wearing out?
So they're industrial equipment. They're very durable. I think the question we get mostly is, how often do I replace a blade? How expensive are they? And things like that. And, in our experience and the experience of our customers in perf cutting paper is that as long as, once you learn how to set that blade, blades are lasting anywhere from 6 months up to a year. And they're $35 a piece, so they're not expensive. They last a long time, and when you need a new blade, you just drop a new one in, and you're away and going. You don't need a service call or anything like that. So the whole system is user friendly from an operations standpoint.
And you've got some really great videos out there that are fantastic for the new user, that they come in and they're like, okay, I've got to set this thing up. I don't even know where to start. And you already had the forethought of, okay, well, we're not just going to drop this on your step. It's not one of those scenarios where you place your order, is drop shipped, and you're done.
Right.
They now have some support in the form of videos that walk you through it. How do I set the blade depth? How do I set the force?
Mm-hmm.
How do I load the paper? How do I do these things? Where does the registration mark? There's all these little things that are in there so that when a school is referencing how to use the Graphtec cutter, there's already a series of videos that walks them through. I mean, that's one of the places that you've been really strong, is not only providing helpful tutorials and videos on your software, but also on the hardware that your software is going to drive.
Right. So we broken it down into small videos that people can focus on what they want to learn, and takes them through the whole system from unboxing it to making their first print and cut.
And we'll have those videos on our YouTube channel as well. So anybody that's looking to find out how to run a Graphtec cutter, how to go through and use the different elements of it in terms of setting it up, those will be available on our YouTube channel for you to be able to follow and get the information that you need. So within the schools, we're talking K through 12, like you mentioned.
Right.
Let's talk about where it kind of fits, because you've got your lower school, which is K through 6, in some cases K through 8. Then you've got your upper school, your 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And there's some uses in both that are different, and then there's some crossover as well. Talk to me about where, your lower school and your upper school might differentiate.
Yeah. So, in the lower grades, it's more of a teacher-driven system where they're producing their own in-class learning aids. But as you get to the upper grades, then it's a system where you're actually teaching the students how to use it, right? How to create with the applications that they're learning, how to print those out, and how to cut them. So then it becomes hands-on.
And we're now seeing 5th and 6th graders that have their own cell phones. So they're way smarter than I was when I was in 5th or 6th grade. I couldn't operate a cell phone. They didn't exist back then, but if they did, I don't know that I would have been able to operate it. So now these are tools that can be used even in that kind of middle school age, where they can start learning that educational standpoint and really prep themselves before even high school to start getting ready for these really advanced type careers. And when they get into high school, they're able to use these as electives that they can choose for, whether it's yearbook or marketing design, brand design, things like that. There's just so many different things that this is applicable.
And then when they move on to college and they get access to these big STEM labs that have all this equipment, they're already familiar with it. They use it.
So John, this has been great. And hopefully there's some great information from a tool standpoint for all the teachers and the schools administrators out there to consider this as a great solution for them. It pairs with so many printers. It pairs perfectly with a Graphtec cutter, and it just frees them of a lot of the constraints that other solutions have out there. John, thank you so much for coming today and sharing information with us. And thank you for watching. If you have any questions, reach out to your sales rep at 1-800-4LEXJET, or as always, go to LexJet.com.